Hello students, welcome to the class of digital communication. In the last class, we have already seen the concepts of line code as well as the definition of power spectral density. And we have also derived the formula for power spectral density for any general line code. So today, we are going to find out the power spectral density of a polar line code. Polar line code is a specific type of any line code. So if you want to categorize different line codes, you can have polar line codes, bipolar line codes, RZ formats and RZ formats. All these things we have already seen. So today we will see the power spectral density of polar line codes. So what is the polar signaling? In the polar signaling, whenever we represent bit 1 by the pulse plus Pt, and whenever we represent the bit 0 by minus Pt. This is a concept of polar signaling. It is a concept of polar line code. Polar line code. And if we talk about the amplitude or the strength of the the pulse and in general for kth pulse, it can be simply equal to either plus 1 or it can be minus 1, right? Here in this figure we can see that this is a pulse which is representing plus 1. Here again plus 1 is representing, this is plus 1, and this bit is for 0. So definitely the transmitted bit should be 0. This bit should be 0 and it is represented by minus of pulse, minus of 1 basically. And if we are talking about the strength of the pulse, so for all positive pulses it is equal to plus 1 and for all negative pulses is equal to minus 1. So this is the concept of polar signaling. And now if you want to see the power spectral density of such line code, then this is the derived result. The power spectral density can be defined as SYF is equal to mod of PF square upon TB into R naught, and if R naught is equal to 1, then this relationship can be modified to mod of PF square upon TB, right? So now we want to derive this power spectral density. We should know that how we are getting this result. So to get this result, first we should write the derived formula, that was SYF, which was equal to mod of PF square upon TB in bracket R naught plus summation of n is equal to 1 to infinity Rn cos of 2 pi f n TB. Right? This is basically the relationship. Now, if we want to calculate the power spectral density of any line code, that is Yt, and definitely the Fourier representation of this Yt is Yf, then you can say that we have to calculate the values of all these discrete correlation functions, that is R0, R1, R2 dash dash Rn. We know that these are nothing but discrete autocorrelation functions, and we have to calculate the value of these discrete autocorrelation function. And after calculating these values, we have to put these values into this equation to get the power spectral density of a particular line code. And in this case, we are going to find out the power spectral density of polar line code, in which 1 is represented by plus Pt, 0 is represented by minus Pt, and the amplitude strength or the strength of the pulse will be equal to either plus 1 or it will equal to minus 1. Right? Now we can start with the calculation of R0. We can start with the calculation of R0. Right? So if we talk about R0, then we can simply say that R naught can be defined as limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon n summation of ak square. This is n is equal to 1 to. This formula we have already derived in the last class, right? Now we know that here we are mentioning that n should move towards infinity. It means that we are talking about all n pulses. We are talking about all capital N pulses because number of pulses are capital N, right? So now the value of R naught can be written as limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon n summation of n is equal to 1 to infinity. It is ak square, right? It is ak square, and we know that the value of ak can be either equal to plus 1 or it can be minus 1. But if we talk about ak square, it will always be plus 1, right? So you can put the value of ak square here, and then we add these all ones up to how many times? N times, because we are having total n pulses. So the value of R naught can be written as, further the value of R naught can be written as limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon n, and then we have to add the 1 to how many times? Capital N times, right? So if we do so, then we can simply write down limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon n into n, that is equal to 1. So R naught is equal to right? So we have find out the value of R naught. Now we have to find out the value of R1. So to get the value of R1, what we have to do? We have to again write down the formula for R1. So R1 was limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon n summation of ak into ak plus 1. We have already seen the formula, ak into ak plus 1. Now see, ak into ak plus 1, it means that we need the value of ak and ak plus 1 both. So definitely we know that ak can have the values either plus 1 or minus 1. Similarly, ak plus 1 also can have the values either plus 1 or minus 1. In this case, we can simply find out all the probable situations that if ak is 1, then ak plus 1 can be 1. If ak is minus 1, then ak plus 1 again can be 1. If ak is minus 1, then again ak plus 1 can be minus 1. If ak is 1, then ak plus 1 can be minus 1, right? So ultimately we have find out all those probable situation, and we know that if we are having two variables, then the possible choices are 4. So if we take the product of these two things, ak and ak plus 1, then you can say that this is 1, this is minus 1, this is plus 1, and this is again minus 1. So you can say that we are getting 2 minus 1s and 2 plus 1s, right? We are getting 2 plus 1s and we are getting 2 minus 1s. So if we generalize it for capital N pulses, then we can say that we will get n by 2 plus 1s and n by 2 minus 1s, right? So we'll use this concept to solve the value of R1. Now we can write down the value of R1 can be equal to limit n tending towards infinity 1 upon capital N summation of, we can simply remove this summation now, and we can directly write down the value of the summation. That is, we know that the summation will move up to n capital N pulses. So we can simply write down that the answer of the product of the ak into ak plus 1 will be n by 2 plus 1s plus n by 2 minus 1s, right? This will be the solution. So we know that n by 2 into plus 1 will be n by 2, plus n by 2 into minus 1 will be minus n by 2. So if we see the calculation here, we can simply write down that this term will be moved towards 0, right? So hence we can simply write down that the value of R1 will also 0. Now if the value of R1 is 0, means the autocorrelation between the kth moment and k plus 1th moment is 0. Now it is very simple to calculate the value of R2, because the value of R2 will be the autocorrelation between AK into AK plus 2. And naturally, when we don't have any autocorrelationship or correlationship between k and k plus 1, then the autocorrelationship between k and k plus 2 will also be 0, right? So you can simply say R2 will also be 0, and dash dash all other values will be 0, that is Rn will also equal to 0, right? Now we can simply say that the value of R0 is equal to 1 for us, the value of R1 is equal to 0, the value of R2 is equal to 0, and dash dash the value of Rn will also equal to 0. So the power spectral density, that is PSD of polar line code can be written as that SYF is equal to mod of PF square upon TB in bracket R0 plus summation of n is equal to 1 to infinity Rn cos of 2 pi f n TB, right? So definitely if the value of Rn is equal to 0, if the value of Rn is equal to 0, then this whole factor will move towards 0. So ultimately we can get SYF, which is equal to mod of PF square upon TB into R0, and we know that the value of R0 is equal to 1, so we can put the value of R0 here, and in that case we can simply get the value of mod of PF square upon B. So this is the situation that SYF can be simply written as mod of PF square upon V. This is the power spectral density of polar line code. I should again rewrite it. The power spectral density of a line code is now SYF can be equal to mod of PF square upon V, right? And this is the power spectral density for polar line code. This is the power spectral density for polar line code. So one thing we can conclude that the PST of polar line code can be characterized by the appropriate pulse shape, right? Because S in this factor we are having that only PF is available with us, and if the means the value of PF will ultimately decide the power spectral density of this polar line code. So whatever the value of this pulse, this PF we choose, it will have a high impact on the properties of this polar line code. And now if we extend our discussion, then what we can say for the purpose of comparison, because we know that we have to find out the power spectral density for many codes, and we want to compare the power spectral density of all those available line codes, and so that we can find out that which code can perform better on the front of power spectral density. So to compare to compare different power different line codes, in fact different line codes, we can fix the type of pulse for further discussion, right? We have to fix the type of pulse, means we can choose any pulse, but for the purpose of comparison between different line codes, we have to fix a particular shape. So in our discussion, we are taking the pulse PT, which is a rectangular pulse, or which is a half width rectangular pulse, and we will take this PT constant, means we will always take this PT as half width rectangular pulse for the calculation of power spectral density of different line codes. Then the comparison can be made easily because the pulse shape is fixed. So how we can write it down mathematically? PT can be simply write down pi function of T upon TB by 2, right? This is the representation of rectangular pulse of width TB by 2. And we know that we can also, because ultimately for our power spectral density calculation, we have to calculate the value of PF. So for the calculation of PF, what we should do? We should take the Fourier transform of pulse PT, so that we can get the value of PF. So if we talk about the Fourier transform of pulse PT, then we can simply write down, we can take the Fourier transform of pulse PT, and we know that the Fourier transform of a rectangular pulse will be a sinc function, right? So the value of PF can be simply written as TB by 2 sinc function pi f TB upon 2. This is the value which we can get if we talk about the Fourier transform of So we have written that the Fourier transform of PT, we have considered the PT as a rectangular pulse. So the Fourier transform of PT can be simply written as, we have already seen it, which can be written as TB by 2 sinc of pi f TB upon 2, right? So this we have seen. Now we can put the value of PF into the equation that we have derived already, that is SYF is equal to mod of PF square upon T. So we can put the value of PF here, right? So if we putting the value, we can simply write down it TB square upon 4 TB sinc square pi f TB by 2, right? And if this TB will be cancelled out, then the power spectral density S by F can be simply written as TB by 4 sinc of square of pi f TB by 2, right? So this is the power spectral density of a polar line code, provided that the pulse shape is half width rectangular pulse. right? Now if we draw this power spectral density, we know that the power spectral density is the relationship between frequency and power. So, and on this axis we can plot frequency, and at this axis we can plot the power of the signal. So, if we want to plot the sinc function, we know that the sinc function will be like this. So, the power spectral density variation may be like this, but as we know that S by F is TV by 4 sin sin square pi f TV by 2. This is the pulse. This is the power spectral density which we have to plot. So this is the original sinc function. But if you want to plot this thing, then we have to make the square of this pulse, right? And if you are making the square of this pulse, sinc pulse, it means that all these negative portions will become positive portions. So what we can do here, we can simply rub these negative portions, sorry, all the things will be rubbed now. Now we can simply redraw this pulse. Now this pulse can be redrawn like this. I hope you got the point. It is a symmetrical, so kindly bear with me. So this can be the power spectral density variation, and the magnitude can be TB by 4. And if you want to see the values of frequency, then this point, first null point, basically it is touching the 0. So the first null point can be at 2 RB. This is the minus 2 RB, and in between we can have somewhere RB. Here we can have minus RB. This is 0. Then 2 RB. Then here we can have 3 RB. This point can be 4 RB, and RB is what? RB is equal to 1 upon TB. This we should remember. So this is the power spectral density distribution of a polar signaling, or polar line code, right? This we have seen. Now we have seen the formulatical description of a polar line code, as well as we have seen the graphical representation of the polar line code. Now with this graphical representation, what we can conclude, we can say that the essential bandwidth can be written as 2 times of RB. As you can see this figure, so this is the bandwidth. This portion will be the bandwidth. You know the bandwidth formula for bandwidth. It is the highest positive frequency and lowest positive frequency. So sorry, here we have to take first null, where we are getting first null point. So the difference between this first null point and this 0 will be the bandwidth of the signal, because most of the information or most of the power is residing in this area, right? Most of the power is residing in this area, and these lobes are having very small power, so we can neglect those all things to calculate the estimation of bandwidth. Although you can say that theoretical bandwidth will be infinite, because the signal is moving towards infinite. So if you want to transmit the 100% power, 100% power means all power components, so all power components will move till infinite. Although these lobes will become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, but ultimately theoretically the energy will move till infinity. So the signal will not become zero before infinity. So ideally the bandwidth requirement will be infinite, but practically you can say that bandwidth means the frequency band which can carry most of the power, or which can carry most of the information. So in that case you can consider this area for the calculation of bandwidth, because this is the main portion, this is the main loop where almost all power is residing, all power of the signal is residing. So that means that we can write down the essential bandwidth can be written as 2 times of RB, right? And the second important point from this graph which we can see that this polar signaling is having an issue also, that it is having non-zero power at zero frequency. Means when f is equal to 0, you are having certain amount of power, right? So it makes the AC coupling almost impossible in the case of polar signaling. So you can write down here that in polar signaling or polar line code, in bracket I can write in line code, the non-zero power at f is equal to 0 or at DC makes the AC coupling unsuitable. The AC coupling unsuitable. Hmm? This is the major issue in polar signaling, and the essential bandwidth is RB. So we can also say that this is not a bandwidth efficient scheme, because it consumes to twice RB bandwidth. So we can say that it is not a bandwidth efficient scheme. This is also the problem with this polar line code, polar line signaling. And the third point which we can write, that this code is also not having the error correction or detection capacity or capability, right? Whatever you can write down here. This is important thing. So these three main points which we can draw from the study of this polar line code, and we can conclude that this is not a bandwidth efficient scheme. Again, this is not a good scheme wherever you need AC coupling, and this code is also not having any error correction or detection capacity or probability. So uh, there may be a case where you can modify the pulse shape. You can modify the pulse shape to avoid the problem of AC coupling. Means at least we can do something for this point. For this second point, we can make some changes in the pulse. Although the code will remain same, we are just making the change in the pulse shape, and by making this change, we can avoid this AC coupling problem or AC coupling issue. So what is the problem? That at f is equal to 0, we are having non-zero power. This is the problem, right? Because we are having non-zero power, we should have zero power at f is equal to 0 for proper AC coupling. This is the point, right? Means there should not be any DC component. Ultimately, you can say there should not be any DC component. It means that if we are having a pulse PT, this PT should not have any DC component, or you can say that this pulse should be such that it should not have any power at f is equal to 0. Means at f is equal to 0, it should have 0 power. If this is the case, then we can avoid the problem that is mentioned here in point number 2, that is the problem of AC coupling. So what it means here, again we have to see what it means, that if we find out the power spectral Fourier transform of the pulse PT, then we can simply write down it is as PF, and we know the formula for Fourier transform, that it can be Pt e to the power minus j 2 pi ft dt, right? And the limit for integration will be minus infinity to infinity. This is the simple Fourier transform relationship, and we know that if this pulse having the property that at f is equal to 0, there should be 0 power. At f is equal to 0, there should be zero power. So what we are doing here now, we are putting here f is equal to 0 in this equation, and we try to find out what will happen if we put f is equal to 0. So if we put f is equal to 0, then we can write down it t0 minus infinity to infinity pt and e to the power j2 pi ft. So if you put f is equal to 0, then it will go e to the power 0, and e to the power 0 will become 1, right? It will become 1. So ultimately you can write down that t0 can be written as minus infinity to infinity pt dt, right? It means it is what it is. P0 will give you the area under the curve of pt, right? Or area under the pulse, area under the pulse, because minus infinity to infinity pt dt is nothing but the area under the pulse. So if you want to make p0 is equal to 0, it means the area under the curve during during the integration of whole time period, it should be equal to 0. So with this property, if we do so, then definitely there will not be the problem of AC coupling, right? It means we can achieve that at f is equal to 0, the power will be 0. The power will be 0. So with this property, what the modification we can suggest, we can suggest the pulse like this. We can suggest the pulse like this. For example, we are having this is 0, this is TB, right? Then in that case you can have the pulse like this. For example, for half time it will be 1, and for rest of time it will be 0, right? I have to rub it again. Actually, should rub this one, right? So what I can write down here, you can simply write down here, this is the line, this is TB, right? Now 0 to TB, half of the pulse is positive and half of the pulse is negative. So undoubtedly, if you use such kind of pulse, this is your PT. If you use such kind of pulse to designate the 1 and the 0 bit, then in that case definitely the the power at f is equal to 0 will be 0. Why? So right now 0 power. Why? Because the area under the curve into the whole time period is equal to 0, and this is the condition which we have derived. If any pulse is satisfying this criteria, this pulse will definitely have the power 0 at f is equal to 0, and if it is so, then there should not be any problem in AC coupling. This is the main concept. So it means what? It means that we can represent 1 by this pulse, and we can represent 0 by the reverse of this pulse, or 180-degree phase shifted version of this pulse, right? This is the main point. And if we are using such kind of pulses, to represent 1 and 0, then this can be named as a popular Manchester coding. Manchester coding. Mind it, the pulse shape should be like this. Till now we are representing 1 by high pulse and 0 by a low pulse, right? We are doing this in polar signaling. Now what we'll do, we'll represent 1 by this pulse, and 0 by will represent like this, 0 by this pulse. This is 0 point and this is TB. So if we are representing 1 by this pulse and 0 by this pulse, the same polar signaling will become, or will be named as Manchester coding, or in some time it can also named as split phase coding, and it is also known as twinned binary code, right? This is very important. So you can say that if you are using Manchester coding, then you will have the 0 power at f is equal to 0, or you can say that you can have a DC null power component. Means f is equal to 0, there will not be any power. So Manchester code is not a different code, it is just a modified version of a polar code. And in this code basically we are representing 1 by this kind of pulse or any other pulse which can satisfy this condition, so in that case, if you are doing so, then the same code will be named as, or the outcome code can be named as Manchester code, or it can be named as split phase code, or it can be named as twin binary code. So here basically we can say that the Manchester coding is not a new code, it is just a modified version of a general polar line code, in which we are using a specific pulse shape, and that pulse shape is having area zero area during the whole time period. This is the point. Okay, this is the point. So till now we have calculated the power spectral density. We have calculated the power spectral density of a polar line code. We have derived all those relationships, and we also defined that if we change the pulse shape, that is PF or PT, we modify this pulse shape, then we can also achieve a new code that is named as Manchester code, and these two things are now clear to us. So this is the first code of which power spectral density we derived, and now in the next lecture we will derive some more power spectral density of different line codes, and at last we want to compare all these line codes so that we can find out which code or which line code can perform better in terms of power spectral density. So hope you enjoy, and hope you got the concept of the power spectral density of a polar line code. And now we'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you very much.